All right, so late this week, Mississippi filed a brief with the Supreme Court asking to reverse Roe v. Wade. Never thought you'd hear that. Will it work? We're going to bring in Alan Dershowitz. He's a legal legend and the host of the great new podcast, The Dersh Show. He's also the author of The Case Against New Censorship, Protecting Free Speech from Big Tech, Progressives, and Universities. Welcome, sir. I got to ask, I was hesitant to ever think that Roe v. Wade would just flat out be challenged to be overturned completely. What do you think is the actually going to happen here?
Well, I think they'll get 2 votes to overturn it. There'll be 2 other justices, Chief Justice Roberts and Judge Kavanaugh, who, if it were a matter of first impression, would probably not have voted for Roe versus Wade. We don't know where Barrett will go, but they just don't have 5 votes to overturn out and out Roe versus Wade. Also, I think, if you're a stalwart Republican and want to see the next president be a Republican, you don't vote to overrule Roe versus Wade. I'm not saying that the political considerations will come into play, but Roe versus Wade has been a godsend for the Republican Party. It has allowed moderate Republicans who favor abortion, who favor their children being able to get an abortion, it allows them to vote Republican because the issue has been sent to the court. If abortion returns and becomes a political issue, the vast majority of Americans support a woman's right to choose. And so it will be the death knell for the current Republican Party. So I think that Roe versus Wade is solid. It's been there for, 48 years. I think we'll see some chipping away at the edges of the rights of women in some states, but we won't see a general reversal of Roe versus Wade. That's my prediction.
Right. Now, I want to take it back a little bit and explain. A lot of people understand Roe v. Wade as an abortion-related decision that came down. However, most people don't understand that it doesn't ban or allow abortions. It just kind of pushes it off to the states. So talk to us a little bit about actually what Roe v. Wade is in about 30 seconds.
Well, Roe versus Wade is a constitutional decision that says the states do not have the power to prevent a woman after a certain amount of time, before a certain amount of time, to have an abortion. So it takes the power away from the states and says the Constitution prohibits states from abolishing abortion. Remember, too, that abortion is being legalized all over the world today. In the most Catholic of countries, Ireland and Italy, and places like that, abortion on demand is now current all throughout Europe. So the United States would be a real outlier if they abolished the right of a woman to choose. Look, there's an argument, maybe it shouldn't be a constitutional right. That argument was made back in 1973 by some very good people. Mm-hmm. But I think that argument has seen its day, and I think Roe versus Wade has become a super precedent and very, very unlikely to be overruled.
I am hesitant, but I do agree with you on that, and I do think that when you start getting into overturning landmark stuff, whether you agree or disagree, what the Supreme Court does need to do, though, is they need to decide legally when life begins, because that takes this whole argument out of the sails. I don't know if they're going to do that.
Well, they're not. They're going to leave that to the scientists. They're going to leave that to. I don't think they'll ever be able to answer that question. When does life begin? My God, it's a metaphysical question. Yeah. How do you define life? Life can begin at the zygote. Life can begin,
Exactly.
So it's very, very much up in the air.
Real quick, I want to get your take on gun rights. There's a case in my home state of Connecticut about gun sales. They basically said, hey, we are going to institute a new system. And when they did that for the last 2 weeks, nobody's been able to buy a gun because they can't do the background checks. They did away with the NICS system. What do you make of this? A judge came back yesterday and said, we're going to give the states some more time to figure out what they got going on here. Is this unconstitutional because nobody's been able to purchase a gun for 2 weeks?
Everybody's going to hate my answer to this question. Gun rights in many ways are like abortion rights. They're both in the Constitution. They both limit the power of the states.
Wait, where is abortion in the Constitution, sir?
Well, no, it's the right to privacy, but there's a constitutional decision. So they've both been constitutionalized, whether you like it or not. That's the rule. But it's interesting that people on the right who, like you, who support widespread gun rights don't want to see restrictions. People on the other side don't want to see restrictions on abortion. If something is constitutionalized, that means the state's power to make restrictions has been limited. And so I think that in Connecticut, probably the Supreme Court, if they take the case, will say Connecticut has gone too far in restricting gun rights.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is crazy to me that they can just outright, they look, I'm not against background checks. I'm really not. I have some to many to a lot of guns somewhere in there. And I have bought every single one of them with a background check. What I do have a problem is in Connecticut, you have to have a permit to buy ammo and everything like this. And you can't get a gun right now because their system that they're imposed, that so they can monitor your purchases of a constitutional value, doesn't work. So I hesitate to see how long do you think this court might let this stand before they force Connecticut to start allowing people to buy guns again without the background checks potentially?
Well, I think the court will uphold background checks, but if background checks are being used to stop people from exercising their constitutional right to buy guns, if they're being used in a way to stop people from doing that,
the state won't even do a background check. That's the problem. The state won't even do a background check, and therefore they can't sell the guns.
It would be like the state saying you have to have ID for voting and then refusing to give out IDs. So if you're going to impose a restriction on a right, you have to make it easy to avoid that restriction. You cannot use the restriction as a way of undermining the right itself. That would be true of guns. That would be true of voting. That would be true of abortion. Nobody likes to think of it that way because people like to choose sides on particular issues. But the concept generally prevails as a matter of constitutional law.
Yeah. All right. Alan Dershowitz, as always, we appreciate your opinion.
Thank you.
All right. By the way, if you have a legal question for Professor Dershowitz, email us at askdersh@newsmax.com. That's askdersh@newsmax.com. And we may show your question on the air. You're not going to want to miss that.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.